In this video, we're going to talk about how much it costs to live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Let's get started. What's up, everyone? This is Benjamin and Brian Tercero, and we are the Tercero Agency right here in the beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, if this is your first time on our channel, we're here to get you educated on what it's like to be a Santa Fe local. So make sure you tap that subscribe button so that you're notified every time that we release a new video.
We are born and raised in Santa Fe, and our families have been enjoying the city for generations. As local realtors, one of the most common questions we get is, what does it cost to live in Santa Fe? You should probably know the cost of a gallon of milk before moving to a new city. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into Santa Fe's cost of living, and yes, you will know how much you need to budget for milk by the end of this video. So let's talk about housing. Santa Fe has a cost of living index of 115.4 compared to the national average of 100. So it's a little bit more expensive to live here than other parts of the country. Now, when you break down the cost of living here, the majority of that expense difference can be accounted for in housing alone. Our housing index is at 164.5 compared to the national average of 100. Our median price point for a home is in the mid 400,000s, but that includes all of Santa Fe County. When you break it down to just the city, the average price is closer to $600K. So now let's jump into the luxury market. In Santa Fe, we classify luxury starting at $750,000, and it stretches into several million dollars depending on the size, location, and the amenities of the property. The bulk of our luxury transactions, they take place in the $1.25 million to $2 million range. But with the surging prices we've seen, many more deals in the $2 to $3 million range and beyond. Now, one thing you will constantly see when reading home descriptions in Santa Fe is how far the home is from the Plaza. Why is that? Well, the Plaza, or the city square, is the heart of Santa Fe, and it was established in the year 1821, and it has famous landmarks such as the Cathedral Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, the Palace of the Governors, the Loreto Chapel, and the New Mexico Museum of Art. It's where the locals and the tourists hang out, and there's plenty to do, see, eat, and buy. You won't need your car in the downtown historic district. It's easily and best navigated on foot. Because of this, it's no surprise that Santa Fe's historic east side carries the highest price tag when you're shopping for a home. You'll find multi-million-dollar adobe homes located where you least expect down an old dirt road. The pros of living downtown is, of course, the proximity to the plaza. It's walkable, and there's an undeniable charm of living in a historic neighborhood. The cons are that it's a little bit tight when it comes to traffic, parking. The lot sizes are smaller, and your views are limited because your neighbors are so close. If you want to spend $1 million on a home but are not willing to sacrifice views and privacy, you will likely end up looking in neighborhoods like Las Campanas, Monte Sereno, or Sierra del Norte, which is up by our ski basin. These luxury communities are all known for their exceptional views, high-end homes with modern amenities. The biggest challenge for shopping for a luxury home in Santa Fe is deciding the location. Do you want to be in town, able to walk to everything? Or are you okay with a 15 to 20 minute drive to gain a larger home with space and privacy? It's been my experience that you're going to want to look at both options and just see which one draws you in most.
Okay, so not everyone is looking to spend $1 million+ on a house. You may be looking more in the average price market, which is going to be right around the $500,000 to $750,000 range. Now, the sort of house you can get, it varies pretty drastically here. I mean, we could be talking about a 3 to 4 bedroom single family home with some nice finishes, or it could be a really nice 2-bedroom condo close to the downtown area. It really just depends on what it is that you're looking for in a home. Now, this year, the market has been extremely competitive in these price ranges, with some houses going for over 20% above their list price. Now, it's something that's happening all over the world right now with real estate, and it's something that you do need to be prepared for when putting in offers. See, if a home's been on the market for less than a week, it's near impossible to get the house for anything less than the list price. And usually, you're gonna need to put more on the table than the list price to beat out the competition. Over a week on the market, and we start to get some wiggle room. But just like your pants after a large meal, things are going to be pretty tight here still. Now, over a month, and now we have some room to negotiate. Though the homes that stick around this long were typically overpriced in the first place, and or they may need a little bit of love. Now, some good areas for homes in this mid-range are Rancho Viejo, La Pradera, Aldea, Rodeo Road, and the areas north of the old Pecos Trail towards downtown, just to name a few. I mean, Santa Fe is pretty scattered, and we'll do a breakdown of the top neighborhoods in future videos. But for now, just know that we can find something for you that's going to work within your budget. All right, but what if I don't have half to $750,000 for a house? Is there anything below the 500,000 mark? Now the answer is yes, we do have more affordable homes for those of you that are looking to get into your first home, or maybe even looking to grab up some rental properties as investments. We've got your back either way. In areas like Tierra Contenta, Navade, and some more of the central neighborhoods of Santa Fe, we can definitely find some 2 to 3 bedroom homes in the $300,000 to $500,000 price range. And occasionally we will get the super rare 4-bedroom home in that price range. Now it is rare to see these homes for under $350,000, but it does happen. You just have to be ready to put your best foot forward when they do show up. And when it comes to anything below $300,000, you're typically talking about a condo or a townhome, some of which are really nice, but this leads us to our next topic of hidden fees, such as those dreaded HOA fees. Have you ever looked at an Airbnb and thought, wow, that is super affordable? But then you get to the checkout and you get hit with a plethora of fees that take your super affordable $100 a night to some ungodly number. Well, housing can be like that sometimes. You might find an adorable and charming Santa Fe condo for $400,000 and think you've hit the jackpot, only to find out there's a $600 to $1,000 per month HOA fee. I'm looking at you, Quail Run. Now, although to be fair, most of the times these fees cover things like exterior maintenance, insurance, and utilities. And of course, there are more affordable HOAs in the $20 to $150 range. It just depends on the property. So this is a big point of discussion when we're working with our clients. Another thing to factor in when buying a house is your interest rate. As interest rates move up and down, so does your buying power. How much? Well, for every 1% increase in interest, your buying power drops about 11%, and vice versa. When the rates go down a percentage, your buying power goes up about 11%. Now, this is a huge deal because in a time when we see housing prices going up, we've also seen interest rates go down to historic lows, which basically counterbalances everything. See, a lot of people are waiting for prices to go back down, but what they don't realize is that if that does happen, interest rates are very likely to go right back up. Now, if those rates go up enough, you'll end up spending more money for a cheaper house in the long run. So don't wait, unless if you're buying with cash, then waiting makes a little more sense.
So let's talk about the topic that makes everyone want to cringe: taxes. The good news is that compared to many other places in the nation, Santa Fe County has a relatively low property tax rate, making it an attractive place to buy. In Santa Fe County, your property will be taxed at 1/3 of its market value, making it relatively easy to calculate your own taxes. The mill rates are published on the Santa Fe County Assessor's website. In 2021, the mill rate for Santa Fe County was 0.021939. So let's say you purchase a home at the average sales price of $600,000, 1/3 of that is $200,000, multiplied by the mill rate, that gives you $4,916 per year. There are also restrictions on how much your property taxes can go up over time. So once you purchase a property, the current law limits the amount that the taxes can increase over the course of a year at 3% maximum, which really helps right now as home prices are surging. Now, compare our property tax to a place like San Antonio, Texas. They would pay more than double the taxes, close to $12,000 per year for the same priced home. So how do taxes look compared to other cities? It all depends on where you're coming from. But on the average, we are much lower in property taxes than other states.
Now, on top of the federal taxes that we all pay based on our income brackets, New Mexico does have state income tax. So what does that look like for you? Currently, our state income tax ranges from 1.7 to 4.9%, depending on what bracket you find yourself in. A single filer making over $16,000 a year, which will be pretty much anybody trying to buy a house, is going to be paying the full 4.9%. For married couples, that number goes up to $24,000 a year, whether you're filing separate or together. So these numbers are important to factor in when relocating for something like a new job into this area.
So how does Santa Fe make up for its relatively low property tax? They also collect gross receipts tax on all goods and services, regardless if you live here in the city or if you're just visiting. So anytime you pay at a restaurant, buy groceries, put gas in your vehicle, or pay someone to cut your hair or do your taxes, you're going to see gross receipts tacked on at the end of every transaction. So right now in the city of Santa Fe, the GRT rate is 8.4375. So for every $100 you spend, you're going to pay $8.44 for a gross receipts tax.
Now, another cost to consider is that of utilities, which depends on how much time you spend on your screens or how high you turn up the heat or the AC throughout the year. And the amount of gas and electricity you're going to use is also going to depend on what type of appliances you have in your home. I mean, is it a gas or an electric dryer or stove, for example? Our electric company is P&M and our natural gas company is New Mexico Gas. Now for P&M, you're going to pay a monthly customer charge of $7.11, plus about 8 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 450 kilowatts, which then jumps to 12 cents per kilowatt for the next 450 kilowatts, followed by an increase of 14 cents for all the other kilowatts you use. Now, that doesn't make sense, but the average American household uses about 900 kilowatts, or roughly 30 kilowatts per day. So you are using a lot of power if you happen to cross into the highest tier, and you may need to talk to someone about your screen usage, or you may need to learn how to live in a house that isn't as cold as a refrigerator or as hot as a sauna. Now that's electricity. Now let's talk about natural gas, and not the kind that makes up the atmosphere of Uranus. Can we make Uranus jokes? Moving on. So things get a little more complicated when it comes to natural gas. Basically, the cost of gas fluctuates throughout the year and it is not consistent year after year. For example, natural gas costed about 28 cents per therm in September of 2020. This September of 2021, the cost was about 75 cents per therm. I know, a therm should never cost that much. Okay. We got lots of abstract numbers here, and let's be honest, none of us know what the crap a therm is anyways. So let's simplify. The average American household uses about $650 per year in their homes, which is about $50 per month, and I can accurately say that that reflects how much money I send the gas company each month. For me and my family, we keep the house around 72 degrees year-round, and we use lots of devices all the time. We pay somewhere between $100 to $150 a month on both gas and electricity combined, mostly depending on how many episodes of Shameless that we got through each night. Now, of course, our electricity bill is higher in the hotter months due to the AC, and our gas bill is higher in the colder months due to the heater. But that range is about what you can expect. If it's just you, or maybe it's just you and one other person, it'll likely be much lower. Plus, newer construction helps with energy saving as a lot of the new materials used are much more energy efficient.
So, what do the utilities look like outside of Santa Fe city limits in more rural areas? If you can't connect to city services, the most common utilities you'll see are propane instead of natural gas, a private or a shared well instead of city water, and a septic system instead of city sewer. Living on propane is more expensive than natural gas. Homes typically will have a 500 to 1,000 gallon tank that needs to be filled depending on the usage. If the home's heating system is tied to the propane, in addition to the cooking, expect to have to refill that tank much more frequently. The cost per gallon, they fluctuate throughout the year, but they hover between $1.50 to $1.80 per gallon. So a home with a 1,000 gallon tank, each time you fill it, it's going to cost you between $1,500 to $1,800. A 1,000 gallon tank, it should last you a good 2 to 3 months, but again, depending on usage and the heating situation during the cold winter months, you could easily burn through an entire tank in a month's time. So propane is definitely something you want to calculate into your cost of living. So what about water? Water has become top of mind for everyone with all the news of drought and cities running out of water. Luckily, Santa Fe has been water conscious for a long time, before it was even popular. If you buy a home in the county, it's very likely going to have either a private or a shared well. And each well has to be registered with the state engineer's office with the state of New Mexico, and we have to have the well logs in order to study. The only expense of having water from a well is paying the electricity bill for the pump to draw the water, and of course to maintain the pump and equipment over time. Shared wells are ideal because you have multiple homeowners drawing from the same well, and expenses to repair the well, if ever needed, is divided by the number of homeowners sharing the well. A private well sounds nice because you don't have to share your water, but if the mechanicals of the well ever go down, you're going to be responsible for the repairs yourself. So a question I get asked a lot these days, do our wells ever go dry? And the answer is yes they can. There are areas in Santa Fe that have had their wells dry out, and there are areas in Santa Fe that are tied to the most amazing aquifers known for high quality water. When you buy a home in Santa Fe with a well, there are a series of inspections that we're going to encourage you to have done so you know exactly what you're getting into. Not all realtors understand the caveats of wells. We are not all created equal, and we don't have the same experience. When we work together to find a home, we will be sure to point out what to look for and give you the guidance you need to make a sound decision. We have a lot of experience and we're here to help. So, what about the septic systems? The rules for septic are governed by the New Mexico Environmental Department. Anytime a home changes hands in real estate here, the seller is responsible to do a septic certification before transferring it to a new owner. Part of this process is making sure the septic is up to code, inspecting the tank, making sure it's intact and it's not leaking into the ground, making sure it's a safe distance away from your well, and many other things. The cost of ownership for a septic is pretty straightforward. You're encouraged to have the tank pumped out every 1 to 2 years depending on the size of the tank and how many people are living in the home. Cost for pumping, it differs from place to place, but expect to pay about $250 every time. As long as the septic is in good condition and you have the stamp of approval from the environmental department when you're buying the house, there shouldn't be any other major expenses when owning a home with a septic system. On a rare occasion that a septic system does fail and it needs to be replaced, you can expect price ranges anywhere from $6,000 upwards of $10,000 for a new system. So it's critical we make sure the septic's in good shape when you buy. Another necessity to discuss is high-speed internet. Our major providers in the city are Xfinity Cable and CenturyLink DSL and various other broadband providers. But if you live in a part of the city or in the county that doesn't have access to those, we also have really good wireless broadband providers. New Mexico Surf is an excellent company. They'll give you the speeds that you're looking for as long as you have line of sight to their tower sitting on the mountain.
Okay, let's get into the cost of groceries. A loaf of bread, it's going to cost you about $2.50. A block of cheese around $5, dozen eggs around $2, a pound of apples is right around $2. And are you ready for it? Drum roll please. A gallon of milk is right around $3. Now, if you're all fancy and love that organic stuff like I do, you can expect to pay close to double those prices. But hey, that's just the price of eating healthy, I suppose. At the end of the day, you can expect to pay about $150 to $300 a person per month on groceries, depending on how fancy you decide to cook. Steaks every night are going to cost you a pretty penny.
Now let's talk about one of my favorite topics and one of the biggest pros of living in Santa Fe, and that is our food scene. Santa Fe is a foodie town and we are known for our world-class cuisine. We have authentic and delicious food to pick from on nearly every block. You can seriously stumble into a hole-in-the-wall mom-and-pop restaurant and be blown away by the flavor. When someone opens up a restaurant here, if they're not bringing their A game, they will not be around for very long. Us Santa Feans expect the best. We have restaurants of all sorts and all different price points, but on average, what would you expect to pay? So, in most of my favorite sit-down restaurants, you're looking at entrees that are usually in the $15 to $18 range. You can throw an appetizer in there and that's usually like $10 to $12. And for most restaurants, you can usually get out of there for about $40 to $50. The place where it really starts to hit you is when you start adding all your adult beverages. We've got some of the best margaritas on the planet. Home-brewed beer and wine from local vineyards. You don't believe me about the margaritas? We have the Margarita Trail Map that gives you a tour through the city's best drink stations, and they have over 40 margaritas to sip on. I don't recommend you try to taste them all in one day. You're definitely going to need some time here. So, when you add a cocktail or two, most house drinks are roughly in the $8 to $10 range. But if you like to step it up and go to some of the top shelf stuff, look, I'm a big fan of Patron Silver Tequila, and it costs a little bit extra. If you start throwing a couple of drinks in there, then it gets really tough to get out of one of these spots for less than $60, $70. And that's just two people going out to eat and having a good time. Now, if you have kids and you bring them with you, if they can eat off the kids menu, you're gonna be in pretty good shape. You might jump out of there for like $80 to $90 or something like that. But when your kids get a little bit older like mine and they want to order off the adult menu, we just can't seem to get out of a restaurant for less than $100. Now that's not everywhere, but if you want to go out to eat as a family at a nice place and you have 2+ kids, you can expect to be somewhere in $80, maybe $120 for a full course meal. And that's including dessert, and they always want dessert. Now Santa Fe fine dining, that's a whole other ballgame. Think world-class cuisine and the customer service and the atmosphere to match. Now you can spend $40 to $60 on an entree, $20 for an appetizer, $10 to $15 for dessert, and of course a nice glass of wine per your taste and budget. But when you want to go all out in Santa Fe for dinner, prepare to pay $150 to $250 for a couple on date night. You have to splurge every once in a while.
All right. Santa Fe isn't going to be the most entertainment-filled place if you're all about go-kart racing or Topgolf. You'll have to drive to Albuquerque for that, which I do regularly, because Topgolf is absolutely the best. That said, we do have a sweet bowling alley, we got movie theaters, a drive-in theater, Meow Wolf, golf courses, tennis courts, pools, country clubs, nightclubs, nearby casinos, and of course our awesome ski basin in the winter. All of which are going to put a dent in your bank account, but part of having money is spending it on the things that make you happy. Then there's all the free stuff that you can do, like hiking trails, biking trails, parks, galleries, stargazing, walking around downtown, frisbee golf, or just sitting on the patio with a drink watching the most beautiful sunsets you'll ever see, night after night after night.
So let's talk about gas prices. Here in Santa Fe, they're pretty average. You can expect to pay $3.12 for a gallon of gas, up to $3.40 for premium unleaded. Of course, gas prices have been all over the board lately, and it's not uncommon to see price surges during the holidays or one of those supposed gas shortages that we all love to hear about. But all in all, to fuel up and drive around and see all that this beautiful state has to offer, it's not going to break the bank. And we're seeing more and more electric charging stations for all you Tesla drivers out there.
So Santa Fe isn't the cheapest place to live, but then again, it's far from being the most expensive. If you're still thinking about moving or relocating to Santa Fe, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text or an email, or leave us a comment, however you want to get a hold of us.
We're here to serve you in your move to the Santa Fe area. Let us be your guide.